If you saw this video before, no you didn't. A year would pass relatively quickly. The Saiyan attack could be any day now, but they weren't going in blind. The Galactic Patrol was scanning the sky for signs of alien spacecrafts, well, ignoring their own spacecrafts. As soon as they detected the Saiyan pods enter the atmosphere, they'd use the Dragon Balls to transport Goku from King Kai's planet back to Earth. Unfortunately, they weren't specific about where on Earth, and he wound up on the other side of the planet. Honestly, he had no idea where he was, but he could just follow the energy. But there was the issue of the Saiyans. They could arrive any minute, so he had to be quick. When they arrived, they'd be intercepted in East City by the group, ready to fend off these alien invaders. Jaco would task the humans with evacuating the population, while he and Symbol fought the Saiyans. And once they were done with that, they should come back and help.
So, Raditz wasn't wrong. You do have a power level of 20,000.
Vegeta still scarcely believed it. Still, this diminutive creature was presumably one of the stronger patrolmen out there. Last he heard, a patrolman with a power level of over 1,000 was rare, so Jaco had to be an outlier. His partner as well, the dragon-looking guy. His power level was over 6,000, so he had to be an outlier as well. The fight would break out with Vegeta taking on Jaco and Nappa taking on Symbol. The two Galactic Patrol officers held the advantage in terms of power, but it wasn't completely one-sided. For example, Jaco was a pretty alright fighter, but he wasn't as skilled as Vegeta. Symbol was having a bit of an easier time with Nappa, who clearly wasn't used to fighting opponents around the same size and strength as him. Nappa would punch Symbol in the stomach before Symbol retaliated with a punch to the face. They'd go back and forth like this for a while until they both had to take a break.
You're pretty tough, aren't you? What species are you anyways? Namekian, or that's what I've been told. Perhaps a mutant Namekian would be more accurate.
Symbol didn't really know what he would count as.
Well, that explains it. Namekians can be pretty tough, and you're a mutant to boot. No wonder you're strong.
Nappa would fly towards Symbol, taking the offense, aiming to knee him in the face, though this time Symbol blocked it. Vegeta managed to evade most of Jaco's strikes, though one or two got through, and when they did land, they hurt. Vegeta was struggling to find an opening to hit back. He'd managed to land a blow on Jaco's face, and he clearly felt it, but it didn't deter him from attacking. Vegeta would jump to the side to avoid a shot from Jaco's blaster, but he wasn't completely successful and he got hit in the shoulder. He'd clutched the spot he was hit, but he didn't have time to waste, as Jaco was back on him in an instant, elbowing him in the stomach before punching him in the face and finishing it with a kick that sent him flying into Nappa.
I see you're having about as much fun as I am.
Nappa would joke, though Vegeta wasn't really in the mood for humour.
Shut up, Nappa. Just keep them busy for a second.
Nappa would fire a blast of energy towards Chaozu, who he assumed to be the weakest. The distraction would succeed as Jaco flew over to block the attack. This gave Vegeta enough time to create a power ball, so both Vegeta and Nappa transform into great apes.
It's the middle of the day, I thought they needed the moon.
Jaco hadn't known about this technique.
Using the moon would be preferable, but we can make two.
Creating the power ball took a bit of energy, so he'd definitely be weakened when this transformation wore off, but that shouldn't matter. By now, all the citizens had more or less evacuated, so the humans had come back to help. Good thing is they'd need all the assistance they could get to face off against two great apes. They'd scramble to evade an attack from Nappa as Krillin ducked under an attempt to grab him. Go for their eyes to distract them and cut off their tails if you can! Jaco would instruct everyone, which was easier said than done. Unfortunately, the Saiyans knew that they would go for their tails, so they were focused on defending them. Jaco and Symbol were doing their best to keep Vegeta busy, while Krillin, Yamcha, Chaozu, and Tien Shinhan fought Nappa. Neither group was doing too well. Yamcha would be swatted out of the sky before being stood on, killing the bandit. Nappa would then fire a beam from his mouth towards Chaozu. Tien would push him out the way, but he was struck by the blast himself. 2 down already, their numbers were dwindling fast and Goku wasn't even here yet. Goku had been riding the Nimbus, so he wasn't as fast as he normally was, but he needed to save energy for the fight. Vegeta had managed to grab a hold of Symbol, starting to squeeze the life out of the mutated Namekian, though Jaco would help him as he shot the prince in the eye. Vegeta would drop Symbol, stumbling back. He was struggling to see, but otherwise uninjured. Jaco would try to go for his tail, but Nappa swatted him aside. Nappa would begin to charge energy in his mouth, but before he could fire, Jaco fired a shot from his gun. It stung enough for Nappa to close his mouth without thinking, so the energy just blew up in his face. Using that as an opening, Chaozu would hold his tail still with telekinesis, while Krillin sliced it off with a Destructo Disc. Once that was done, Nappa was in no state to fight, so Krillin and Chaozu would go to help Symbol while Jaco went to arrest Nappa. Vegeta took notice of this, however, and while Jaco was distracted, he'd stomp on the patroller, killing both him and Nappa. Now, even if these fools got lucky and he lost his Great Ape form, he'd still be the strongest thing on this planet. Everyone who was left would focus on taking out Vegeta. None of them was strong enough to lay a hand on him, but they could keep him busy while they tried to think of a strategy. Symbol would manage to hit him with the electric shockwave attack, stunning Vegeta for just a moment so they could all go hide. Goku would arrive on the scene, but by now his presence didn't matter too much, Vegeta was just too strong. Vegeta didn't see him, however, as he was too busy looking for the others. Jaco, Tien, and Yamcha were all dead. Yes, they could use the Dragon Balls, but they just used them, and they wouldn't be ready again for a year. Not to mention, they couldn't bring someone back if they'd been dead for more than a year. They'd have a few hours to find them and make the wish. He couldn't focus on that right now, though. Vegeta hadn't noticed him yet. That was good. Goku would prefer a one-on-one fight, of course, but that was too risky, and he couldn't get everything he wanted. After assessing the situation, Goku would come to the conclusion that their best shot at winning this would be with a Spirit Bomb, so he'd get out of sight and begin preparing an attack. Chaozu, Krillin, and Symbol had all sensed him arriving, and they could sense him gathering energy, so they'd try to buy time, flying out from where they were hidden, buzzing around Vegeta, taking pot shots whenever they saw an opportunity. None of them did any damage, but they kept him busy while Goku was preparing the Spirit Bomb. This Spirit Bomb was a bit bigger than the original. Since he's having to use it on a bigger target, it would also take longer to charge. Vegeta would swat Symbol out of the sky when he went to grab his tail. He couldn't finish him, however, as Chaozu would hit him in the eye with a Dodon Ray. Vegeta would grab a hold of Chaozu before throwing him into Krillin. Goku could see it was now or never. If this didn't work, they didn't have another way of beating him, so he had to give this everything he had. This was risky, but he had no choice. Kaioken times 4! Goku would yell, quadrupling his own energy, and that of the Spirit Bomb, before taking the shot, hurtling the ball of energy into Vegeta. The shout would catch the prince's attention, and he turned just as the attack slammed into him. The attack would send him into a nearby wall before the energy exploded. The smoke cleared, and then they'd see Vegeta struggling to his feet.
What cheap shot!
Vegeta would fall forward, alive but struggling to move. Krillin would slice off his tail with a Destructo Disc, and Vegeta would shrink back to his normal size. Sure, he was still stronger than them, but with Goku here, they had a chance. Vegeta would stagger to his feet. After an attack like that, losing his tail and pouring a chunk of his energy into the Power Ball, he was weakened considerably. He could barely push himself to a level of 12,000.
Kakarot, it's unbecoming of a Saiyan warrior to attack someone from behind. So how about I fight you properly, one-on-one?
It's a trick. He knows he can't beat all of us, so he wants to fight you one-on-one. Despite Chaozu's warnings, Goku would agree, arguing that a one-on-one fight was fair, and he was pretty confident he could win anyway, and he just wanted to fight Vegeta one-on-one, but he didn't say that. Goku could just about use Kaioken, but times 3 or 4 would be out of the question. Even so, with Vegeta in his weakened state, it was more or less even. Goku punched Vegeta in the stomach, and Vegeta would elbow him in the back. Goku would retaliate with an uppercut, and Vegeta would kick the taller Saiyan in the face. Both would back up, firing a volley of energy blasts, which neither took much damage from. All it really did was kick up some dust. Vegeta would try to attack using low visibility to his advantage, but Goku senses him coming and catches his fist, before punching him across the face. The fight would drag on like this for a while, with neither fighter giving an inch. Vegeta was surprised how well Goku was doing. Even if he was tired, he was still the prince. He should easily beat this low-class scum. Goku was even more surprised. Vegeta was this tired and still putting up a fight like this. His muscles were beginning to ache. He knew his body wouldn't keep this up for much longer, but it wasn't like Vegeta was doing any better. Goku would rally his remaining strength into one attack. Either this would take Vegeta out, or well, hopefully he'd be damaged enough for the others to do something. Goku exploded forwards, kneeing Vegeta in the face before collapsing to the ground. Vegeta was knocked to the ground by the attack. He was pretty sure his nose was broken, and he definitely didn't have the energy left to fight these guys. He decided to leave, summoning his pod, but all of a sudden he couldn't move. Chaozu was holding him in place with telekinesis as Krillin prepared an attack. But Goku convinces the two of them to let him go. Next time he wants to fight Vegeta properly. He wants to fight him at his full strength, one-on-one. They'd let him go, but only out of gratitude for Goku saving their lives. They still thought it was a mistake. After Vegeta had left, Chi-Chi, Bulma, and the others would come to check on them. Yajirobe had brought what senzu beans they had, aka 2. Goku would decide to give them to Krillin and Chaozu. Yajirobe said there wouldn't be more senzu beans ready for a few weeks at least, but that was fine. Goku didn't mind waiting. Symbol would heal quicker since he was still an Namekian, and eventually, after giving him about a week to recuperate, he would suggest that they could go to Namek to find their Dragon Balls to bring back Tien, Yamcha, and Jaco. They don't need to wait for a ship since Symbol has one, and somewhat surprisingly, Chi-Chi suggests Gohan go along with them. Gohan wasn't kidnapped by Piccolo for a year, so he isn't behind on his studies, and Chi-Chi is just much calmer in general, since she doesn't need to worry about him getting hurt in a fight. Besides, being one of the first humans on an alien planet was no doubt a great accolade, and not to mention Bulma was going, and she trusted Bulma to look after Gohan. Krillin, Chaozu, and especially Symbol were more suspect in her eyes, but with Bulma along they'd be fine. With symbol ship, they should be there in 3 weeks, better than the 34 days it took in the original story. Goku would have to catch up once he'd recovered, but after having a look at the Galactic Patrol ship, Dr. Briefs was sure he could build something to get Goku there. And that's the end for now. This one was weirdly difficult for me to write. I don't really know, I was just kinda struggling for ideas. But I hope you enjoyed it nonetheless. Leave a comment and let me know what you thought, or just say anything. Either one is fine. Also, if I make a mistake, feel free to tell me, because actually there was a mistake in this one, and this is the second time I'm uploading it. If you enjoyed the video, maybe consider liking or subscribing, but that's all from me. Have a good day! Staff Officer Black, or Commander Black as he was now known, had been watching the events of the Saiyan invasion unfold with great interest through Dr. Gero's spy drone. A difficult battle to be sure, with several casualties. Not that he had any sympathy for the Z-Fighters or the Galactic Patrol. Part of him had been hoping they and the Saiyans would destroy each other. They had lost track of the action when the spy drone was destroyed, not long after Vegeta lost his Great Ape form. They'd had to try to follow things on the news after that. Coverage was limited due to the danger of approaching, but it looked as if the attackers had been driven off. "We need another drone," he'd ordered Dr. Gero, who seemed a little unbothered by the whole thing.
"Those spy drones aren't exactly easy to build. It was entirely unique. It will take months to source the parts I need. Longer still if you want it done properly. Besides, I can estimate how strong they'll get based on the data we have so far."
"I don't care how long it takes, get it done. We're at least 5 years away from making a move, and we are not going to have that big a blind spot." Gero would grit his teeth.
"Whatever you say, sir. Oh, and you have a meeting with Magenta in a few hours."
The commander would audibly sigh. Magenta, constantly whining that he should be in charge just because he is Commander Red's son. He really didn't want to talk to him, and he had an excuse not to. "I'll have to rearrange. We've tracked down Colonel Violet, and I need to go confront her before she slips away. She'll regret robbing us." He still remembered the day Commander Red died. Colonel Violet used the confusion as an opening to rob them. She couldn't be allowed to get away with that. She'd been keeping a low profile these past years. No doubt she knew some of them had survived, quietly rebuilding using Red Pharmaceuticals as a front. But they'd found her. She'd been living in a hotel in West City for a while now, a small place, easily overlooked, but she had been recognized by one of their recruits. And so, Commander Black had decided to confront her personally. It was pretty late at night when he broke in, startling her awake. "Staff Officer Black, it's been quite a while. Can't say I'm happy to see you. Commander Black now. You betrayed the Red Ribbon Army. You stole from us. You can't have thought we wouldn't track you down eventually." "Oh, come on, that was over 10 years ago. You aren't still holding a grudge. Can't you just let me go?" "Afraid not, but I'm not here to kill you. I wouldn't be talking to you if I was. Join back up with us, and we'll overlook this whole thing." What a generous offer. Unfortunately, it's not one I can agree to. Violet would pull out a gun she'd had hidden on her, firing 4 shots towards Black, but to her shock, he just took them, not a scratch on him. "You remember Dr. Gero. Let's just say he's been making some great progress with his cyborg technology." Too fast for Violet to react, Black was behind her. He'd knock her out with a blow to the back of the head before picking her up. Gero could always use more volunteers, and with a bomb in her chest, she'd be a lot less likely to betray them.